It almost died about 10 years ago. And I was fortunate enough to come out on the other side of that. And so when I came out on the other side of that, not that I didn't approach my life in a certain way before, but it just made me appreciate life that much more. And so every day I'm chasing something different. Every day the way I operate is totally different. And it's not about the product for me as much as it is about the process. And what I mean about the process saved my life. Meaning the way I go about my life and the way I approach certain things, it saved my life. It wasn't because I was this talented kid. It wasn't because I was this privileged kid. It was because of the way that I approached the process and the things that I understood about what the process can produce in my life. And I'm going to give you an example. It's not so much about when I played the game of football, it wasn't about the stats for me. It was more about me taking pride in coming out down after down, quarter after quarter, and dominating my opponent and basically imposing my will on him to the point where he looked at his coach and said, man, I don't want to go out and face him again. Because I know not only is he going to beat me, he's going to have fun with it, and he's going to bring it every single play, every single quarter. That's a different type of pride. But to give you the backstory of how I became the individual that I am, I carry two things with me everywhere that I go. And I'm talking about everywhere that I go. I carry a football with me, and I carry a bucket. And the backstory to the football is this. I got a good friend, a guy by the name of Eric Berry. He's in the NFL now. He went first round, 5th pick to the Kansas City Chiefs, one of the highest paid safeties in the NFL. Really talented kid. And so last year I went up to watch him play, and I get up to about 2 games a year, and I went up to watch him play, and they played against the Seattle Seahawks. He went out, he played lights out. After the game, he came over to me, and he had a football. And so he tossed me the football, and I caught the football, and as I was tossing it back to him, I said, man, what's that? He said, Ink, that's the game ball. I said, man, you keep that. He said, no, Ink, I'll get plenty more of those. He said, I want you to give that to your son. So I said, I appreciate it. And so I looked at the ball, and on it had the score 2024 Kansas City Chiefs. Had Be Legendary on there. And it had the Bible verse Jeremiah 29:11. The next week, they went out to play against the Oakland Raiders. It got late in the game. My guy, he went up, he filled the gap, and he hit a running back. And at the point of contact, when he hit the guy, I knew something wasn't right. I didn't know what it was, but I knew something wasn't right. And so he came, he was jogging off the field, he got over to the sideline, they started touching, feeling around the shoulder area. The next morning, he called me, he said, big bro, did you see the game? I said, yeah, I saw the game, but what I did notice, you didn't finish the game. What happened? He said, yeah, because when I hit that running back, it felt as if I knocked something loose in my shoulder, and I got over to the sideline, they started touching and feeling, and they couldn't find anything, and so they're taking me to the hospital in Kansas City. I said, call me after you come from the hospital. He called me after he came from the hospital. I said, what did they say? He said, man, Ink, they told me they found a mass in my chest the size of a softball. I said, what did you say? He said, man, I asked him, can I still play Sunday? Beast, right? And he said, the doctors responded by saying, no, son, you don't get it. Like, this can be cancer. This can be serious. We got to send you down to Emory University to get some further testing done to see if this is cancer. They sent him down to Emory University. Getting testing done. He got diagnosed with cancer, lymphoma. Could no longer play in the NFL, had to start going through chemo. Started losing his hair, started losing his muscle mass. But the thing that intrigued me about him, and the reason that I told people when they would say, Ink, are you worried about EB? I said, I'm not worried about him at all because I know EB the person and not EB the athlete. And so by knowing EB the person, I knew the character that he possessed. This is the same guy I watched leave chemotherapy, and he would leave chemo and go jump out on the track and run 400 meters after he left chemo. And he would be crying as he was running around the track, but the tears wasn't because he was in so much pain. The tears wasn't because he wanted to give up. The tears were because he couldn't kick it in gear like he used to. But this is the same guy when they diagnosed him cancer-free and he went back to the NFL, he returned back to the NFL a pound heavier. What is that? And it had nothing to do with the product, but more about the process, because the thing I believe in whatever you do, who you are as a person is way more important than who you are as an athlete. But I tell you that story to tell you this: never take life for granted, because sometimes life doesn't send a warning shot. And if you're not who you're supposed to be, adversity is not going to say, man, I'm going to let you gather yourself and I'm going to come back. Opposition is not going to say, man, I'm going to let you get your stuff together and I'm going to be back. Like, I didn't know my life was going to change on September the 9th. I was playing football. I was doing the thing that I love. I was 8 games away from the NFL, projected top 30 draft pick, and I went out and made a tackle and found myself in the emergency room that night fighting for my life. But my mother had nothing to worry about. They asked my mother, are you worried about your son? She said, I'm not worried about him at all because I know he's a survivor. What is that? And that leads me into why I keep this bucket with me. You know, a lot of people know I live by this thing called empty the bucket, right? And people like empty the bucket ain't got this cute slogan, empty the bucket, but they don't know at the foundation of what it really is. They don't know the accountability behind it. They don't know the responsibility behind it. Every day in my house, I got 3 buckets. I got a bucket when I wake up and I look in my bedroom, it's a bucket. I got a bucket in my office, I got a bucket in my weight room at my house. And what that bucket stands for me, that bucket means I have to give everything I got to everything I'm involved in, and it has nothing to do with the product, but more about my personal standard of excellence never changes. And it doesn't depend on the circumstances, it doesn't depend on a situation, and it never depends on a person. I have a personal standard of excellence for my life. I just believe I deserve to give my wife the best version of me. I just believe I deserve to give my kids the best version of me. I just believe the people that I'm of service to on this earth, I deserve to give them the best version of me. And so I take a personal level of pride in everything that I do, because I almost lost my life behind the game of football, and God placed me on this path. And so now it's not even about me. Meaning, would you do what you do if the outcome wasn't attached to what you were doing? That's why I don't even get caught up with people that do things for money. I'm not impressed with how much money you make. You know the true level of wealth? You know the true measure of wealth? As if they took all your money, what would you be worth then?